everybody, it's Sandy and I wanted to show you a tutorial today on coloring reds, particularly in this red rose from Stampendous. So I'm going to use this cottage rose image from Stampendous. It's a very large one, and so large that it barely fits on my block. So I'll show you a little trick for making sure that that actually all gets stamped. So I'm inking everything up by having the stamp facing upward rather than tapping the stamp on the pad. And then I'm going to go ahead and press it all down like I would with any other stamp, and then I'm going to reach under and tap those little pieces that are sticking out just to make sure those ends of the leaves get stamped onto the paper. You can also draw them back in with a pen, but it's easier to get them stamped. Now I'm hyper speeding this base coating of the image. I'm using R24 as the main color for this piece, and the R24 is the lightest of the reds that I'm going to use, and this G24 is the green color that I'm chosen, and I'm going to fill those both in with those ink colors as just a really quick solid base underneath where I'm going to be coloring all the rest of the dimension on top of those base colors. So I'm going to start with one leaf, and basically with a rose the darker spaces go on the inside, so anywhere where that leaf is traveling inside into the interior of the rose is where you want the dark color, and that's R89. I'm using my R37 for the secondary red color, and you might be able to see I'm having some bleeding issues because just before I shot this I decided to re-ink the markers so they would last through the video. And I'm going to actually use the excess ink in it. I decided not to color it off on scrap so that I would get plenty of red color in here. You want to make sure when you're coloring reds that you get plenty of ink in the paper, because that's where the colors mix in the fibers of the paper. So here I'm going to do 2 petals at once. As you get better at them and faster and figure out what you're doing, you might do a couple petals at a time rather than one petal each time. And I'm putting the shading in the center and then a little bit around the edges. And here you're going to see a little bit closer, since I've got a better angle, just how much blooping I have going on with that R37 marker. And I'm going back in with my R24, just softening up those edges, coloring over top of them. The ink is really wet, it's very pliable, it's very forgiving. And an image like this, being a giant rose and such a huge stamp, they have a whole series that are these oversized images. They're really great for practicing your blending techniques. And so if you have a really big stamp with large areas to mess with, it's a really great way to practice. So I'm just going to go around the flower and add more of the dark petals underneath. The bottom ones are going to have more of the R89 than the others, so they're further from the light. They're down below, and they're going to have shadows from the other leaves cast on them. And you can tell I'm starting to develop some lighter areas as well, and those are areas where I'm leaving only one coat of the R24. If you go over the R24 again and again and again, it will get darker and darker. And if you want to leave some of those areas even lighter, then you need to make sure you're really careful and not adding too much of the R24 and going over and over those spots. So there's going to be some places from here on, since this is the top of the flower, where I'm going to leave a little bit more of the R24 as the lighter highlight as I get toward the center and the top of this flower, because I want to build that dimension from the bottom up. And you can see even on the end of this leaf that I just colored, this petal, there's just that little wavy edge that goes up and down along the edge of that petal, and I just want to leave that as one coat. I don't want to go over and over and over it. Flowers are pretty forgiving, fortunately, especially roses like this. As long as it's generally rose shaped, people are going to recognize it as a rose. But as you get toward building up your flower, you're going to want more and more concentric circles of darkness with a lot more sharp highlights as the center of the flower starts to take shape. So I'm going to have less of the medium color and a lot more of the dark and light, because that's going to give it that little swirl that roses get in the center, where those petals are really tighter than they are around the rest of the entire flower. So I really love coloring roses for that reason, because they just have a structure that's unique to flowers. They don't have all those little individual petals. They act more as a kind of a swirl of different petals wrapped around each other, which is, I guess, what a flower is. So I'm just going to soften some of those areas, leave some of them sharp and hard, and just loosen up some of the colors and tighten up other areas. I'm going to add a little bit to the greens. This is G29 to go with the G24 that I had already put down. I'm going to add shadows to the veins in these leaves, adding a little more color to them, and then a little bit at the bottom of each leaf, just to give them some roundness. I'm not going to fuss them on them too much, just because they are just the leaves. People are going to be wowed by the flower. They're not going to care about the leaves as much, so I want them just to reflect the fact that it is a leaf and let the rest of it go. And I will take my G24 marker and I'm going to blend those out. And I just want to let you know, while I'm doing that blending, that there's going to be a video up on the May Arts channel, and when that video is live, I will put a link here so you'll be able to go over and see that one, and you will see what I've done with this rose to put it on a card. I did a cool ribbon technique on it, and you might want to go over and visit that one. Thank you so much for taking a moment to watch this video. If you enjoyed it, please click the like button down below. Hit favorites so it's always saved for you if you need to go back and remember how to color reds. And you can always leave a comment down below if there's anything in particular you would like to see me teach you how to color.